The Volfrani research ship called Quiet Dawn floated alone in the darkness of space. It was broken. Its engines were dead. Its lights flickered on and off like dying candles. Inside the ship, 53 Volfrani scientists and crew members waited for death to find them. Commander Yelthy stood at the bridge and watched the empty space outside through the cracked viewing window. He was a thin creature with blue skin that glowed softly in the dark. He had 4 arms and large black eyes that could see in almost complete darkness. His people were not fighters. They were thinkers and dreamers. They studied stars and planets. They wrote poems about the beauty of the universe. They had never needed weapons because their part of the galaxy had always been safe. But safety was a lie. Yelthy understood that now. The attack had come without warning. 6 Krethok raider ships had appeared from behind a gas giant where the Volfrani had been collecting samples. The Krethok were reptilian creatures with scales like armor and teeth like knives. They did not build or create. They took. They enslaved. They destroyed anything they could not use. The Quiet Dawn had tried to run. Their ship was fast when it worked properly. But the Krethok weapons had torn through their engines like paper. Now they drifted helplessly while the raiders circled closer like sharks smelling blood in water. Yelthy looked at his crew. They were scared. Some of them were crying. Others held each other with their thin arms. A young scientist named Telly was trying to fix the communication system with shaking hands. She was barely old enough to be on her first mission. "Commander," Telly said in a small voice, "I have restored the distress beacon. We can send a signal now." Yelthy nodded slowly. A distress signal was their only hope. Perhaps a galactic collective patrol ship was nearby. Perhaps someone would hear them and come to help. It was a small chance, but it was all they had. "Send the signal on all frequencies," Yelthy ordered. "Tell them who we are, where we are, and what happened. Tell them we need help." Telly pressed the buttons with her delicate fingers. The signal went out into the void, traveling at the speed of light in every direction. Yelthy watched the screen and prayed to whatever gods might be listening. The response came faster than he expected. Much faster. A message appeared on their screen. It was not from the Galactic Collective. The coordinates showed that the response came from Sector 7G. When Yelthy saw this, his foreheart stopped beating for a moment. Every child in the collective knew about Sector 7G. It was the Forbidden Zone, the quarantine area, the place where the monsters lived. It was human territory. The Galactic Collective had been watching humans for nearly 100 years. They had studied their planet and learned things that gave them nightmares. Earth was classified as a Class 12 Deathworld. This was the highest danger rating possible. The planet was a hellscape of violence and death. Humans breathed oxygen, a gas that burned and corroded. They drank water filled with minerals that would poison most species. Their planet had massive storms that could flatten cities. It had mountains that exploded with liquid fire. The ground itself would shake and crack open without warning. The temperature changed so wildly that the same place could be frozen solid in winter and burning hot in summer. And the creatures. Earth was filled with predators. Animals that hunted and killed and ate other animals. Humans themselves were predators. They had claws called fingernails and teeth designed for tearing flesh. They chased their prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. They worked together in groups to bring down animals 10 times their size. They had hunted some of the most dangerous creatures on their world to extinction, just to prove they could. The collective had decided long ago that humans were too dangerous to contact. They built a wall of empty space around human territory. They warned every species to stay away. Some species thought about trying to destroy the humans before they could spread into the galaxy. But the military leaders who studied human history said this was a very bad idea. Humans were survivors. They were killers. If anyone attacked them, they would fight back. And they would win. So the galaxy left humans alone and hoped they would never leave their terrible planet. But now 3 human ships were coming toward the quiet dawn at impossible speed. Yelthi felt a new kind of fear. The Krethek would enslave them. That was terrible. But the humans might do something worse. The story said humans ate other creatures. They wore the skins of dead animals. They kept other beings as pets and livestock. What would they do to a shipful of helpless Velthrani? "Commander," Telly whispered, "the human ships will arrive before the Krethek reach us." Yelthi closed his large eyes and tried to think. They had 2 choices now. They could wait for the Krethek to capture them, or they could wait for the humans to reach them first. Both choices seemed to end in suffering. The lead human ship sent a message. The translation system struggled with the harsh sounds of their language, but eventually words appeared on the screen. "Velthrani vessel, this is Captain Daniel Cole of the Terran Coalition ship Valiant. We received your distress signal. We are coming to help. Hold tight." Yelthi read the message 3 times. He did not understand. The humans were coming to help? This made no sense. Humans were monsters. They did not help anyone. On the bridge of the Valiant, Captain Daniel Cole studied the tactical display with calm eyes. He was a strong man with short brown hair and a face that had seen many battles. His first officer, Commander Maria Santos, stood beside him. She was a tall woman with dark hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. 6 Krethek heavy cruisers, Maria said. They are moving to surround the Velthrani ship. Cole nodded. Time until they reach weapons range? 20 minutes. We will be there in 8. Cole turned to his weapons officer, a young man named Kyle Bennett. Kyle, wake up the guns. Standard combat formation. Kyle smiled. He was barely 25 years old, but he had been in more battles than most soldiers twice his age. With pleasure, Captain. Cole pressed the communication button on his chair. Defiance, Ironclad. This is Valiant. We have civilians in danger and hostiles inbound. Form up on my position. We are going to work. The 2 other human ships responded immediately. They changed course and accelerated to match the Valiant. Together, the 3 ships raced through space toward the helpless Velthrani vessel and the Krethek raiders who wanted to take them. The Velthrani had sent a distress signal hoping for rescue. They had not expected their saviors to be the most feared species in the galaxy. But in the cold darkness of space, help was help. And the humans were coming fast. The 3 human warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel like wolves appearing from the darkness. They positioned themselves directly between the crippled Velthrani vessel and the approaching Krethok fleet. Commander Yelthi watched his sensors with a mix of terror and fascination. He had never seen ships move like that. The acceleration alone should have turned the crews inside into paste against the walls. The human ships were ugly. There was no other word for them. Velthrani vessels were elegant and curved, designed to look beautiful as they sailed through the stars. Collective ships followed similar ideas. But these human machines looked like weapons themselves. They were angular and covered in thick armor plating. Weapons bristled from every surface like the spines of some deep ocean creature. These ships were not built to explore or discover. They were built to destroy. The lead Krethek vessel, a massive cruiser called the Fang of Conquest, sent a message to the human fleet. Commander Drax, the Krethek leader, appeared on the screen. He was a massive reptile with scarred scales and eyes that burned with arrogance. Human vessels, Drax growled. You are interfering with Krethek business. These prey animals belong to us. Leave now and we will not destroy you. On the Valiant, Captain Cole looked at the image of the Krethek commander and felt nothing but contempt. He had read the reports about Krethek slavers. He knew what they did to the species they captured. Men, women, children. The Krethik did not care. They took everyone and worked them until they died. Commander Drax, Cole replied calmly, the Velfrani vessel is under our protection. You will withdraw your ships immediately or face the consequences. Drax laughed. It was an ugly sound, like rocks grinding together. Protection? You bring 3 ships against 6. You are either stupid or insane. Krethik do not run from anyone. Cole smiled slightly. It was not a friendly smile. Then I guess we do this the hard way. He cut the communication and looked at his bridge crew. Maria was already calling out tactical information. Kyle had his hands on the weapons console, ready to fire. The rest of the crew worked their stations with the calm efficiency of people who had done this many times before. All ships, Cole said, attack formation Alpha. Target their engines first. I want them unable to run. The 3 human vessels moved as one. They accelerated toward the Krethik fleet with terrifying speed. The Krethik commanders had expected the humans to be cautious, to keep their distance and fight defensively. That was how civilized species fought. But humans were not civilized. They were Deathworlders. They attacked. The Valiant fired first. Its main cannons sent beams of superheated plasma screaming across space. The shots hit the lead Krethik cruiser directly on its shield generators. The shields, which were designed to stop weapons from collective vessels, flickered and failed almost instantly. A second volley tore through the engine section, leaving the ship dead in space. The Defiance and the Ironclad hit the flanking ships with equal precision. Missiles streaked through the void, dodging point defense fire with intelligent guidance systems. Railgun rounds traveling at a fraction of the speed of light punched through armor like needles through cloth. Explosions bloomed in the darkness as systems overloaded and power cores failed. On the Fang of Conquest, Commander Drax watched his fleet being destroyed and felt something he had not experienced in decades. Fear. Real fear. Return fire, he screamed. All ships, concentrate fire on the lead human vessel. The remaining Krethik ships tried to obey. They turned their weapons toward the Valiant and fired everything they had. The human ship took several hits. Its shields flashed as they absorbed the impacts. But it did not slow down. It kept coming, firing again and again, tearing through another Krethik cruiser with methodical precision. The battle lasted less than 4 minutes. When it was over, 5 Krethik cruisers were either destroyed or disabled, drifting dead through space with their crews scrambling to survive. Only the Fang of Conquest remained functional, and it was already running. Commander Drax had abandoned his fleet and his honor. He fled into faster-than-light travel and vanished into the darkness. On the Velfrani vessel, the crew watched in stunned silence. They had just witnessed something impossible. 3 ships had destroyed 6 in minutes. The most feared raiders in the sector had been swatted like insects by these human monsters. Captain Cole appeared on their communication screen. His face was calm, as if he had just finished a routine training exercise instead of a deadly battle. Velfrani vessel, he said. The threat has been eliminated. We are sending over a medical team and engineers to help with your repairs. Please remain calm. We are not going to hurt you. Yelthi stared at the screen. His translator had to be broken. The humans were offering help? After winning a battle like that, they should be demanding payment or territory or slaves of their own. That was how things worked in the galaxy. Power took from weakness. Human captain, Yelthi managed to say, we are grateful for your assistance, but we do not understand. Why did you help us? We did not contact you intentionally. We have nothing to offer you. Cole seemed confused by the question. He looked at Maria, who shrugged. Then he looked back at the screen. You sent a distress signal. You needed help. We were close enough to help. So we helped. What else would we do? Yelthy had no answer. This concept was so alien to everything he had been taught about humans that his mind could not process it. The Deathworlders, the monsters, the most dangerous species in the galaxy, had just risked their lives to save strangers. And they acted like it was the most normal thing in the world. A human shuttle detached from the Valiant and flew toward the quiet dawn. Inside were doctors and engineers carrying equipment and supplies. They were coming not to conquer, but to heal. Commander Maria Santos watched the shuttle on her screen and allowed herself a small moment of pride. Another successful rescue, Captain. Cole nodded. Contact Fleet Command. Let them know we have guests and we are going to need a supply ship. These people have been through a lot. He turned back to the communication screen where Yelthy still stood in shock. Commander, my people are coming to help. I know you are afraid of us. Most species are. But I promise you, we mean no harm. Just let us patch up your ship and treat your wounded. Then you can go wherever you need to go. No strings attached. Yelthy felt tears forming in his large black eyes. He did not know how to respond to kindness from a species he had been taught to hate and fear. But as the human shuttle docked with his dying ship and the airlock opened to reveal beings that had just fought a battle to save his people, he realized that perhaps everything he knew about humans was wrong. The first human to step onto the Velthrani ship was a woman with kind eyes and gentle hands. She smiled at the terrified aliens and spoke in a soft voice. Hello there. My name is Lisa. I am a doctor. Can you show me where your wounded are? I would like to help them. And for the first time since the nightmare began, Commander Yelthy felt hope. Dr. Lisa Monroe moved through the damaged corridors of the quiet dawn with careful steps. She was very aware that everything around her was fragile. The walls were thin. The floors felt weak under her feet. The lights flickered in ways that suggested the power system could fail at any moment. But what worried her most was the beings she had come to save. The Velthrani were beautiful in a delicate way. Their blue skin glowed softly with bioluminescence. Their forearms moved with a grace that reminded Lisa of dancers. Their large dark eyes held intelligence and curiosity, and right now fear. So much fear. They pressed themselves against walls when she walked past. They flinched when she raised her hand. They looked at her like she was a monster wearing a friendly mask. Lisa understood why. She had read the Galactic Collective files on human perception. To most species in the galaxy, humans were nightmares made real. They came from a world of constant danger. They were built to survive violence. Their bodies were dense with muscle and bone. Their skin could heal from wounds that would kill other species. They could run for hours without stopping. They could function without food for weeks. They were persistence predators, creatures that chased prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. And here she was, one of these terrifying beings, walking into their ship with a medical bag and a smile. She found the medical bay after, following a young Velthrani named Telly. The room was crowded with injured crew, members lying on beds that looked too small and too soft for human use. Some had broken limbs from being thrown around during the attack. Others had burns from electrical fires. A few were in critical condition with internal injuries. Lisa knelt beside the first patient and opened her medical scanner. The Velthrani male looked up at her with wide, terrified eyes. He tried to move away, but his broken leg prevented him from escaping. It is okay, Lisa said softly. I am not going to hurt you. I am here to fix your leg. Can you tell me your name? The Velthrani swallowed hard. Kethan. My name is Kethan. Hello, Kethan. This scanner is going to look at your bones. It does not hurt at all. Just a small light. See? She showed him the device before using it. She moved slowly and explained everything she did. Kevin watched her with suspicion that gradually turned into confusion. This human was being gentle. She was being careful. She was treating him like a person, not like prey. Lisa worked for hours. She set broken bones using splints designed for human patients, modified with padding to avoid crushing the delicate Velthrani limbs. She treated burns with gel that was meant for human soldiers, but worked perfectly on alien skin. She gave pain medication in doses calculated by her scanner, which adjusted for the Velthrani physiology. While she worked, the Velthrani began to ask questions. "How do you survive on your planet?" Telly asked while helping Lisa with a bandage. "The data says Earth should be impossible for life." Lisa smiled. "Earth is tough, but humans are tougher. We adapted. We learned. We built shelters to protect us from storms. We made clothes to survive temperature changes. We developed medicine to fight diseases. Our planet tried to kill us every day, and every day we found ways to win. But the predators," another Velthrani said. "Your world has animals that hunt and kill. How did you avoid being eaten?" "We did not avoid them," Lisa said honestly. "We fought them. We hunted them back. And when we could not fight them, we learned from them. We studied how they worked. We became better hunters than they were." The Velthrani exchanged looks of horror and fascination. This human spoke about fighting predators like it was normal, like it was just something her people did between meals. In the engine room, a young human engineer named Chris Palmer was having similar conversations. He was helping the Velthrani technicians restore their power systems. His hands, which looked huge and clumsy compared to their delicate fingers, moved with surprising precision. He had already fixed 3 critical systems that the Velthrani engineers had given up on. "Your tools are interesting," a Velthrani engineer named Rothis observed. "They seem designed for rough use." Chris laughed. "Yeah, human equipment is built to take a beating. We drop things. We break things. We work in bad conditions. Our tools have to survive all of that. On our world, we do not have such problems. Everything is gentle. The weather is calm. The gravity is low. We never needed to build anything so durable." Chris nodded thoughtfully. "Must be nice. Growing up on a peaceful world, I mean." Rothis tilted his head. "Was your childhood difficult?" "Not really. I mean, I broke my arm once when I fell out of a tree. Got food poisoning from some bad chicken. Had to run from a dog that got loose in my neighborhood. Normal stuff." The Velthrani engineers stared at him. Breaking bones, poisoning, being chased by predatory animals. This was a normal childhood for humans? Chris noticed their expressions and tried to explain. "Look, Earth is dangerous, but it made us strong. And more importantly, it made us stick together. When everything is trying to kill you, you learn to help your neighbors, because someday you might need them to help you." On the bridge, Commander Yelthy was having the deepest conversation of his life with Captain Daniel Cole. The human captain had come aboard, personally, to oversee the rescue operation. He sat in a chair that was far too small for his body, looking slightly uncomfortable, but not complaining. "I have studied your species," Yelthy admitted. "The collective files say humans are violent and unpredictable. They say you cannot be trusted." Cole considered this. The collective is not entirely wrong. Humans have done terrible things throughout our history. We have fought wars against each other. We have committed great cruelties. We are capable of violence that would shock you. Yelthy felt his fear returning. "Then why should we trust you?" "Because we are also capable of great kindness." Cole leaned forward, his gray eyes serious. "The same strength that makes us dangerous in battle makes us protective of those we care about. Humans have something we call pack bonding. When we decide someone is part of our group, we will do anything to protect them. We will fight for them. We will die for them. But we are not part of your group. We are strangers, aliens. Cole smiled. You called for help. We answered. That is enough. You are part of our group now, whether you like it or not. Yelphi did not know how to respond. The concept was alien to him in a way that had nothing to do with species. The collective operated on transactions. You helped others because you expected help in return. Everything was calculated and measured and balanced. But humans did not seem to work that way. They helped because someone needed help. That was the only reason they needed. Your species is very strange, Captain Cole, Yelphi finally said. Cole laughed. It was a warm sound, not threatening at all. I have heard that before. But strange or not, we are here. And we are not leaving until your ship is fixed and your people are safe. That is a promise. Yelphi looked at this human, this Deathworlder, this monster from a nightmare planet. And he realized that perhaps the galaxy had misunderstood something very important about humanity. They were indeed dangerous. They were indeed unpredictable. But they were also something else. They were kind. And that might be the most dangerous thing about them of all. News travels fast in space when someone wants it to travel fast. Within 2 weeks of the Quiet Dawn rescue, every species in the Galactic Collective had heard the story. The Volthrani science vessel had been saved from Krethok raiders by humans. Not captured. Not enslaved. Not eaten. Saved. The humans had destroyed the enemy fleet and then sent doctors and engineers to help the survivors. They had asked for nothing in return. The collective leaders did not know what to make of this. For decades, their policy toward humanity had been simple. Avoid them. Do not contact them. Do not provoke them. Pretend they do not exist and hope they never leave their quarantine zone. But now humans were responding to distress signals. They were entering collective space. They were interacting with member species, and they were being nice. Commander Yelphi returned to his homeworld as something of a celebrity. The Volthrani High Council summoned him to testify of his experience with the humans. He stood before the gathered leaders, still weak from his injuries, but determined to speak the truth. The humans are not what we believe them to be, Yelphi told the council. They are dangerous, yes. Their capacity for violence is beyond anything I have witnessed. But they are also protective and generous and kind. Captain Cole and his crew risked their lives to save us. They asked for nothing. They expected nothing. They simply saw beings in trouble and decided to help. The council members exchanged uncertain glances. This did not fit their understanding of Deathworlders. Deathworlders were supposed to be savage and cruel, shaped by their brutal environments into beings that cared only for survival. Perhaps it was a trick, one council member suggested. Perhaps they are trying to gain our trust before attacking. Yelphi shook his head. I spent 3 days aboard their vessel while our ship was repaired. I watched their crew. I talked with their captain. These were not beings playing deception. They genuinely wanted to help us. I believe this is simply how humans are. The debate continued for hours, but Yelphi had planted a seed of doubt. Maybe the collective had been wrong about humanity. That seed began to grow when other rescues happened. A Malari transport convoy was attacked by pirates near the outer trade routes. 3 cargo ships carrying food and medical supplies were surrounded by a dozen raider vessels. The Malari sent out a desperate distress call, not expecting anyone to respond in time. 2 human destroyers arrived less than an hour later. The ships were called the Stalwart and the Relentless. They tore through the pirate fleet like fire through dry grass. When the battle was over, the human captains contacted the Malari convoy and offered to escort them to their destination. The Malari, a species of large furry beings who had never seen human ships before, were too shocked to refuse. A month after that, a Tevian colony world suffered a massive earthquake. The Tethians were aquatic beings who lived in underwater cities. The quake had damaged their dome systems and thousands were trapped in collapsing structures. The collective response ships were days away. But somehow, human relief vessels arrived within hours. The humans brought equipment that could work underwater. They brought divers who could hold their breath for impossible lengths of time. They worked around the clock, pulling survivors from the rubble, repairing damaged domes, and setting up emergency shelters. They did not stop until every Tethian who could be saved was saved. Captain Daniel Cole found himself promoted to admiral after these incidents. His superiors at Terran Fleet Command recognized that something important was happening. Humanity was making friends in the galaxy, not through diplomacy or trade agreements, but through simple acts of kindness. Admiral Patricia Coleman, the head of Fleet Command, called Cole to a meeting at the headquarters on Earth. "The situation is changing," Admiral Coleman told him. She was an older woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that had seen decades of service. "Species that used to avoid us are now reaching out. They want to talk. They want to know more about us." Cole nodded. "We just did what we always do. We helped people who needed help." "I know. And that is exactly why this is working." Coleman smiled slightly. "For 50 years, the collective has told everyone that humans are monsters. They painted us as villains. But actions speak louder than words. Every time we save someone, every time we show kindness, we prove their propaganda wrong." A new position was created for Cole. He became the first human ambassador to non-aligned species. It was a fancy title that basically meant he would keep doing what he had been doing, just with more support and resources. His diplomatic advisor was a woman named Amy Reeves. She had studied alien cultures for years and understood how different species thought and communicated. Most species in the collective did not understand pack bonding. Amy explained during one of their briefings. They form small family groups, or they are mostly solitary. The idea of adopting strangers into your group is alien to them. So when we help someone, they do not understand why we did it? Exactly. They assume there must be a hidden motive. Trade advantage, political leverage, territory claims. The concept that we might help them simply because they needed help does not compute. Cole rubbed his forehead. How do we explain it to them? We do not explain it. We keep showing them. Eventually, they will understand. The showing continued. Human ships responded to distress signals across the sector. They fought pirates and raiders. They brought supplies to colonies in need. They evacuated populations from natural disasters. Every rescue added more names to the list of species who had been helped by humans. Then the message came from Commander Yelphi. Cole was on the bridge of the newly commissioned ship Horizon when the communication arrived. Yelphi's face appeared on the screen, and Cole was pleased to see that his old friend looked healthier than the last time they had met. "Admiral Cole," Yelphi began, "I come to you as a representative of the Velthrani Science Council, but I also speak for others. The Mallory Transport Guild, the Tethian Colonial Authority, 9 other organizations from species your people have helped." Cole leaned forward in his chair. "I am listening, Commander. We have been talking to each other, sharing our experiences with humanity, and we have reached a conclusion. The Galactic Collective does nothing to protect its members. They hide behind rules and treaties while raiders and slavers prey on the weak. They claim to stand for peace, but their peace is just the absence of help." Yelphi paused, and Cole could see emotion in those large, dark eyes. Humanity offers something different. You do not just avoid conflict. You actively protect those who cannot protect themselves. You fight for strangers. You bleed for strangers. You die for strangers. And you ask for nothing in return. That is what humans do, Cole said simply. We know that now. Yelphi took a deep breath. Therefore, On behalf of all the organizations I mentioned, I am formally requesting that the Terran Coalition consider a mutual defense alliance with our peoples. We wish to stand with you. We wish to be part of your pack." Cole felt a warmth spreading through his chest. This was what humanity had always wanted, even if they did not know it. Not conquest. Not empire. Just friends. Just family. Just a bigger pack to protect and be protected by. "Commander Yelphi," Cole said with a smile, "we would be honored to have you." And with those words, the galaxy began to change. The Galactic Collective responded to the formation of the Terran Alliance with anger and fear. For decades, they had controlled the politics of the sector through careful diplomacy and economic pressure. They had kept humanity isolated behind an invisible wall of fear. But now that wall was crumbling, and they did not know how to stop it. The Collective High Assembly sent warnings to all member species. Anyone who joined the human alliance would face severe consequences. Trade agreements would be cancelled. Protection treaties would be void. Offending species would be expelled from the collective, and left to fend for themselves thought it was meant to be a threat. Instead, it became a test. The Velthrani were the first to respond. Their High Council met for 3 days before issuing a statement. They would remain in the Terran Alliance. The collective had never protected them from the Krethek raiders. The humans had. Their choice was clear. The Malori followed. Then the Tethians. Then species after species that had received human help. Some were scared. Some hesitated. But in the end, the decision was simple. The collective offered treaties and promises. The humans offered protection and action. Within a year, the Terran Alliance had grown from a few rescued species to a coalition of 32 worlds. They built shared defense stations and communication networks. They established trade routes that bypassed collective restrictions. They created something that the galaxy had never seen before, a community based not on power or profit, but on mutual support. Admiral Daniel Cole stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, the new headquarters of the Alliance. Through the massive windows, he could see ships from a dozen different species moving in coordinated patterns. Velthrani research vessels, Malori cargo haulers, Tethian water transports, human warships. They flew together like a flock of birds, each different but all part of the same whole. Commander Yelphi stood beside him. The Velthrani officer had become a permanent liaison to the human fleet. He had learned a lot about humanity in the past year. He had eaten human food, which was alarmingly spicy but surprisingly good. He had watched human movies, which were confusing but entertaining. He had even tried a human handshake, though he needed a special glove to protect his fragile fingers. "When I sent that distress signal," Yelphi said quietly, "I was certain we were going to die. The Krethek would capture us, or the humans would destroy us for entering their space. Those were the only possibilities I could imagine." Cole smiled. "And now? Now I stand on a station built by 50 species working together. I watch fleets that would have been enemies a year ago flying in formation. I see beings who were taught to fear each other becoming friends." Yelphi made a sound that his translator rendered as a laugh. "I could never have imagined this." "Neither could we," Cole admitted. "Humanity spent so long alone. We thought the galaxy wanted nothing to do with us. Turns out, they just needed to see what we were really like." A group of young officers walked past them on the observation deck. They were a mixed group. 2 humans, a Malori, a Tethian in a mobile water suit, and a Velthrani. They were talking and laughing together like old friends. One of the humans said something that made the others groan and throw small objects at her. Yelphi watched them with wonder. "Your species has a gift, Admiral. You make others feel welcome. You make them feel like they belong." "It is not a gift," Cole said. "It is just how humans work. We are social creatures. We need connection. We need family. When we do not have one, we make one. And now you have made a very large family indeed. Dr. Elisa Monroe approached them with a tablet in her hand. She looked tired but happy. The past year had been busy for her. She had helped establish medical training programs across the Alliance, teaching alien doctors how to treat human patients and human doctors how to treat alien patients. Admiral, the graduation ceremony is starting in 20 minutes. The first class of integrated medical officers is ready. Cole nodded. We should head down there. This is a big moment. The ceremony was held in the station's main assembly hall. Hundreds of beings filled the seats, representing every species in the Alliance. At the front of the room, 30 new medical officers stood at attention. They wore uniforms that combined elements from human and alien designs. They had trained together for months, learning to work as a team despite their differences. Cole gave a speech about unity and cooperation. Yelthy spoke about overcoming fear. Lisa presented the graduation certificates. But the moment that Cole would remember most came at the end, when the new officers were dismissed. A young Velfrani, Doctor turned to her human colleague and extended her 4 hands in a gesture of friendship. The human woman gently took one of those hands and shook it carefully. Then she pulled the Velfrani into a hug. Being very careful not to squeeze too hard, the Velfrani looked confused for a moment. Then she understood. She returned the hug with all 4 arms. Cole felt something warm in his chest. This was what humanity had always been meant for. Not conquest. Not destruction. Connection. Family. Packed out after the ceremony. Yelthy found Cole standing alone at a window, looking out at the stars. Admiral, may I ask you something that has puzzled me since we first met? Of course. When you received our distress signal, you came immediately. You did not check with your superiors. You did not calculate risks. You did not wonder if we might be enemies. You simply came. Why? Cole thought about the question for a long moment. He remembered his grandfather back on Earth, a man who had lived through hard times and helped his neighbors survive those times too. He remembered his mother, who had worked in disaster relief and spent her life running toward danger to help strangers. He remembered every human who had ever stopped to help someone they did not know. Because that is what you do, Cole finally said. When someone needs help, you help them. It is not complicated. Yelthy made that laughing sound again. Admiral, I have studied human history extensively. Your species has fought more wars and committed more atrocities than any other known civilization. You have been cruel to each other in ways that I cannot comprehend. That is true. And yet you are also capable of more kindness, more sacrifice, and more heroism than any species we have encountered. How do you reconcile these contradictions? Cole considered this as they walked through the corridors of Unity Station. They passed windows showing construction crews building new ships and new stations. They passed common areas where beings from different worlds shared meals and stories. They passed training halls where young officers learned to work together. We are not perfect, Cole said. We never will be. But every mistake we made taught us something. Every war showed us the cost of hatred. Every act of cruelty reminded us why compassion matters. We learned from our darkness, and we chose to reach for light instead. He stopped at a viewport showing the fleet assembled outside the station. Ships from 32 worlds, flying together, protecting each other, building something new. That is what Deathworlders do, Yelthy. We survive. We adapt. We grow. And we bring others along with us. Yelthy nodded slowly. Then perhaps the collective was right to fear you. But they feared the wrong thing. What do you mean? They feared your violence. They should have feared your kindness. Violence can be resisted and contained, and eventually defeated. But kindness is contagious. It spreads. It grows. And now it has infected the entire galaxy. Cole laughed and placed a gentle hand on Yelfi's shoulder. "Welcome to the pack, Commander. We are glad to have you." Yelfi looked up at the human who had saved his people and changed the galaxy. "And we are glad to be here." Outside the window, a new ship entered the system. It carried representatives from 3 more species who had heard about the Alliance and wanted to join. They had seen what humanity offered. Not fear, not control. Just a simple promise. Call for help, and we will answer. That was the human way. And now it was becoming the galaxy's way to. The end.